Henry Morgan, a name whispered with a mix of fear and admiration. Was he a daring hero or a ruthless pirate? The line blurs when we delve into his story. Morgan walked a path shrouded in ambiguity, a testament to the turbulent age in which he lived. On one hand, he was a privateer sanctioned by the English crown to disrupt Spanish shipping and settlements. On the other, his methods often bordered on, and arguably crossed, the line of outright piracy. This duality forms the heart of our exploration. How did one man come to embody both sides of the law? To understand Henry Morgan, we must navigate the treacherous waters of history, separating fact from legend. Born in Wales in 1635, Morgan's early life remains shrouded in mystery. Some accounts suggest a respectable upbringing, while others hint at a rebellious streak. Regardless, his destiny lay across the Atlantic, in the burgeoning Caribbean colonies. The Caribbean in the 17th century was a powder keg of competing empires, rife with opportunity and danger. Spain, with its vast treasure fleets, was the dominant power, while England, France, and the Netherlands vied for control. It was a time of brutal warfare where fortunes could be made and lost in the blink of an eye. It was in this volatile environment that Henry Morgan would make his mark, rising from obscurity to become one of the most famous and feared figures of his age. The exact circumstances that propelled Henry Morgan into the life of a privateer remain hazy. Some historians speculate he arrived in the Caribbean as an indentured servant, seeking to escape a life of hardship in Europe. Others believe he may have joined a band of buccaneers early on, drawn by the allure of quick riches and adventure. Whatever his initial path, Morgan quickly learned the ways of the Caribbean. By the early 1660s, his name began to circulate in the taverns of Port Royal, Jamaica. Morgan joined forces with other privateers, participating in daring raids against Spanish settlements and ships. His reputation as a skilled and successful raider grew with each passing raid. With Modiford's tacit approval, Morgan launched a series of audacious raids that spread terror along the Spanish Main. His targets ranged from small coastal towns to heavily fortified cities, each success bolstering his reputation. Morgan's tactics were as cunning as they were brutal. He relied on surprise and overwhelming force, often landing his men at night or using deception to infiltrate his targets. In 1668, Morgan set his sights on Puerto Príncipe, a wealthy city in Cuba. Leading a force of over 500 men, he bypassed the heavily defended port, choosing instead to land his ships miles away and march his men through the dense jungle. The surprise attack caught the Spanish completely off guard. The raid on Puerto Príncipe was a resounding success, netting Morgan and his men a considerable fortune. Undeterred by the growing pressure, Morgan continued his campaign against the Spanish, culminating in his most daring and controversial raid yet, the sack of Portobello in 1668. Portobello, located on the Isthmus of Panama, was a heavily fortified city of immense strategic and economic importance. Attacking Portobello was a gamble, a direct challenge to Spanish power in the region. Yet, Morgan, driven by a combination of ambition, greed, and perhaps a touch of national pride, was determined to succeed. Assembling a fleet of 9 ships and over 400 men, Morgan set sail from Jamaica, keeping his destination a closely guarded secret. Arriving off the coast under the cover of darkness, Morgan implemented a daring plan. The attack, swift and brutal, caught the Spanish completely off guard. While Morgan's exploits in the Caribbean made him a legend among sailors and a source of dread for the Spanish, they also attracted the attention of the English crown. England, eager to weaken Spain's grip on the New World, saw in Morgan a useful tool. The line between privateer and pirate, always blurry, became even more so when King Charles II issued Morgan a letter of marque. This official document authorized Morgan to attack Spanish ships and settlements. Morgan was expected to operate within certain bounds, respecting treaties and prioritizing the crown's interests. His raids, while profitable, also served to disrupt Spanish trade and weaken their hold on the Caribbean. Officially, Morgan was hailed as a national hero, a bold defender of English interests against a powerful enemy. Emboldened by his successes and operating under the auspices of his letter of marque, Morgan conceived his most audacious plan yet, an attack on Panama City. This wealthy hub served as a conduit for Spain's riches, funneling silver and gold from South America across the isthmus for transport to Europe. Capturing Panama City would be a devastating blow to the Spanish Empire, a prize beyond any Morgan had previously sought. In 1671, Morgan set sail with a formidable force, determined to conquer the city. What followed was a grueling campaign. Morgan and his men faced treacherous jungle terrain, stifling heat, and fierce resistance from Spanish defenders. The attack on Panama City was ultimately successful, but it came at a heavy cost. The city, rather than surrender its riches, was set ablaze, likely by desperate defenders, resulting in widespread destruction and loss of life. While Morgan and his men did seize a considerable amount of treasure, the victory was Pyrrhic. The political landscape shifted dramatically following the raid on Panama City. The Treaty of Madrid, signed by England and Spain in 1670, aimed to establish peace in the Caribbean and curtail the activities of privateers like Morgan. To appease the Spanish and demonstrate their commitment to the treaty, the English crown made a calculated decision. Henry Morgan, the hero of numerous raids against the Spanish, was recalled to England to answer for his actions. Upon his return, Morgan faced questioning from the authorities regarding his conduct in Panama. To the astonishment of many, he was not only pardoned but also knighted by King Charles II in 1674. Sir Henry Morgan's journey took another unexpected turn in 1674, when he was appointed Lieutenant Governor of Jamaica. This island, a key English possession in the Caribbean and a haven for privateers and buccaneers, was in a state of unrest. The sugar-based economy, while profitable, was built upon a brutal system of slavery, and tensions between planters and slaves were high. Morgan, once a figure of rebellion and daring raids, now found himself tasked with maintaining order and stability in this volatile colony. He approached his new role with the same pragmatism and determination that had marked his career as a privateer. Recognizing the importance of a strong defense, he worked to strengthen Jamaica's fortifications. Morgan's tenure as lieutenant governor was not without its challenges, but he also oversaw a period of relative stability and prosperity for Jamaica. Sir Henry Morgan's appointment as Lieutenant Governor of Jamaica in 1674 marked a dramatic shift in his life. Once a figure synonymous with daring raids and plunder, he was now responsible for maintaining order and stability in one of England's most valuable colonies. Jamaica, a jewel in the crown of the English Empire, was a land of opportunity, but also one riven by internal tensions and external threats. The island's economy, heavily reliant on sugar plantations, was fueled by the brutal system of African slavery. The vast wealth generated by sugar came at a human cost, creating a deeply divided society. Planters, often living in fear of slave revolts, demanded a firm hand from their leaders. Meanwhile, Spain, though weakened, still posed a threat, eager to reclaim its lost dominance in the Caribbean. Sir Henry Morgan, despite the doubts surrounding his appointment, approached his gubernatorial duties with characteristic pragmatism. He understood that for Jamaica to prosper, it needed law and order, even if it meant reining in the very activities that had made him a legend. One of his first acts was to strengthen the island's defenses, knowing that a strong military presence was essential to deter Spanish aggression and pirate raids. He oversaw the construction of new forts and batteries, ensuring that Jamaica was well protected against any potential attack. Recognizing the volatile nature of the island's population and the ever-present threat of slave uprisings, Morgan implemented stricter laws and regulations. He sought to impose order on the often lawless port of Port Royal, a notorious haven for privateers and buccaneers. Morgan, however, remained resolute, believing that the long-term prosperity of Jamaica outweighed the short-term gains of a few. Legacy of rum and regret, the later years. As Lieutenant Governor, Sir Henry Morgan left a mixed legacy. He oversaw peace and stability in Jamaica, contributing to economic growth and strengthening defenses. However, his tenure was not without controversies. Accusations of corruption and favoritism towards his former privateering associates arose. The brutal system of slavery continued unabated under his watch. In his later years, Morgan's health declined. likely due to old wounds and excesses. He found solace in his plantation, wealth, and the occasional glass of rum. The truth about Morgan likely lies somewhere in between. A sea dog ashore Morgan's final days. Sir Henry Morgan died in 1688 at the age of 53. The exact cause of his death remains speculative, possibly liver failure from heavy drinking. Others believe he succumbed to old wounds and illnesses from his life at sea. His death was met with mixed reactions in Jamaica. He was buried with full military honors in Palisado Cemetery in Port Royal. In 1692, an earthquake sank Port Royal, including his cemetery beneath the waves. The city, once a symbol of Morgan's exploits, was swallowed by the sea. Henry Morgan's story is, well, a study in contrasts. He was a man who lived on the edge of a sword, a privateer who amassed a fortune raiding Spanish settlements, yet ultimately rose to become a knight and a governor. He was both a product and a shaper of his time, embodying the ambition, brutality, and shifting allegiances of the 17th-century Caribbean. Was he a hero or a villain, a loyal servant of the crown or a self-serving pirate? The answer, like much of Morgan's life, is far from simple. He operated in a world where the line between privateering and piracy was often blurred, where actions sanctioned by one nation were deemed criminal by another. His letters of marque, while granting him a degree of legitimacy, could not entirely erase the brutality and destruction left in the wake of his raids. Even as he amassed wealth and influence, his methods drew criticism, sparking diplomatic tensions and forcing his own government to walk a fine line between condoning his actions and reining in his ambition. Morgan's transformation from a privateer into a governor highlights the complex relationship between power, wealth, and legitimacy in the burgeoning colonial world. He lived in a time when fortunes could be made and lost quickly, where social mobility, though possible, often came at a high cost. The passage of time has done little to diminish the enigma of Henry Morgan. He remains a figure who defies easy categorization, debated and reinterpreted centuries after his death. Often romanticized as a swashbuckling adventurer, a Robin Hood of the high seas. His exploits have inspired countless books, films, and video games. However, this portrayal overlooks the more brutal aspects of his career. The sacking of Panama City resulted in widespread destruction and loss of life. Morgan's role in the transatlantic slave trade casts a dark shadow on his legacy. Ultimately, Henry Morgan's story serves as a reminder that history is rarely black and white. Despite the controversies surrounding his life and career, Henry Morgan continues to fascinate us. Why does the story of this 17th-century privateer still resonate with audiences centuries later? Perhaps it is the inherent appeal of the underdog, the allure of a man who challenged a powerful empire and amassed a fortune through daring raids and cunning tactics. His story taps into a primal desire for adventure, a yearning for a time when the seas were wild and fortunes could be won through courage and cunning. Morgan's life also serves as a window into a pivotal period of history, a time when the world was being reshaped by exploration, colonization, and the clash of empires. His rise from obscurity to prominence highlights the opportunities and dangers of this era, a time when social mobility, though possible, often came at a high price. Moreover, the moral ambiguity of Morgan's career, his constant straddling of the line between privateer and pirate, continues to fuel debate and intrigue. He embodies the contradictions of his age, a time when nations relied on private individuals to wage war and acquire wealth, yet struggled to control the consequences of those actions. In the end, Henry Morgan remains an enigma, a man who defied easy categorization. He was a privateer who became a knight, a raider who became a governor, a symbol of both the brutality and the ambition of his time. He lived in a world on the cusp of change, a world where the old order of empires and monarchs was being challenged by the rise of new economic powers and colonial ambitions. Morgan in many ways embodied this transition. He amassed his fortune through the traditional methods of conquest and plunder, yet he also recognized the need for stability, order, and the rule of law, as evidenced by his efforts to reform Jamaica as its governor. Was he a pirate or a privateer, a hero or a villain? Perhaps the answer is that he was all of these things and more. He was a complex and contradictory figure, a product of his time, and a reminder that history is rarely a simple narrative of good versus evil. Instead, It is a tapestry woven from the actions of individuals like Henry Morgan, individuals driven by ambition, shaped by circumstance, and forever etched in the ambiguous hues of the past.